Welcome back to another episode of the Strength and Speed Podcast. I'm your host, Strength and Speed owner and MudGear-Hannibal Race Pro, Evan Preparis. I got a guest with me on the line. We're going to introduce him first and then get to today's sponsor, and hopefully I don't forget. Joining me, I have Kevin Thompson. Kevin, say hi.
How's it going?
So I'm going to give a little bit of Kevin's background. He's from Charlotte, North Carolina, trains at Ninja Nation in Huntersville. And
Yes.
first year in OCR was 2013. Some of his major OCR accomplishments, 2022 World's Toughest Mudder Team Champion, 2 top 20 finishes at OCRWC 3K, only American athlete on Team USA to compete in the elite division for 100-meter 3K and 15K at FISO OCRWC, top American male at 2023 FISO OCR World Championships, and then has been on like a insane streak this year. I feel like you've won everything you've showed up to for the first half of the year.
It's close.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in a little bit. He's also a member of the MudGear-Hannibal Race Pro team, so one of my new teammates. So excited to have him.
It's good to be on it.
Yeah. All right. Let's start off before I get sidetracked and quickly lose track of what I was doing. Let's talk about this episode's sponsor. This episode is brought to you by The Feed. Tell me about some of your experience with The Feed, Kevin.
The feed's great. I love being able to order like pretty much whatever I want. Like I can get any individual products, and that way I don't have to like just stick to one specific brand. I can pick and choose from different brands and get it all once in one easy shipment.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. I still use Hammer Nutrition for all my endurance fueling, but with the feed, I've gotten some of the stuff that Hammer doesn't make. So I just picked up some essentially protein coffee, and I picked up some casein protein for nighttime, and then I also picked up pickle juice shots because I had like a couple of I had some store credit that I wanted to kind of like round out the amount,
hmm
and I got those pickle juice shots, and they were delicious. I wish they were larger. I want like a giant jug, not the
the town
tank.
I grew the town I grew up in was next to a pickle factory, and so I could never eat pickles just because of the smell. I was like ingrained in
Uh,
me when I was young.
yeah, I could see that. I could see that. That would ruin that. All right. So let's jump into some of your background first. So you've been on OCR for a while, 2013. What were you doing before OCR? Did you play any
Um,
sports, high school, college, etc.?
Yeah, so I was homeschooled all through high school. So I went to co-op, so like I still got to play team sports. So I did basketball, soccer, baseball, which I wasn't very good at, but I had fun doing all those. And then I went to a small private college in Florida, so we didn't have any like major team sports besides I think it was men's basketball and like women's basketball when I went there. And so I just played like intramural like team sports just with my friends. And then like right around when I started college is when I started figuring out what OCR was.
Nice, nice. And were you always a like? Did you run? Were you always athletic, or because you were very fast?
I've kind of always like grown up playing different sports. Like I did gymnastics when I was younger, swimming when I was younger. I didn't really get into running though until like the end of high school, when I started just running for fun. And I thought I was really good and running like a 20-minute 5K. Uh, which is still really good for a lot of people. But like nowadays, I've learned there's like different levels to this sport. So, uh,
True.
even now, like I would think like, my 5K is pretty decent, and then you'll go watch like Olympic like trials, and you're like, oh, there's just levels to this thing that I am not even close to. So,
Losing you a little bit on volume.
oh, sorry,
There we go. There we go. Okay.
sorry about that. Yeah,
No
the middle of
worries.
nowhere, South Carolina, isn't great for reception, I guess.
Yeah, no worries. All right. So tell me about your first kind of venture into obstacle course racing. Did you start off like most people showing up to like a warrior dash or a tough mudder and then realizing later it was a sport?
Yeah. I grew up in the middle of nowhere, Michigan, and there was a little local 5K OCR called the Daredevil Dash, and it was like the most fun thing I'd ever done. I was like, yes, we're get to run through mud. They had like a big slide, just a bunch of like different little obstacles, and so I started with that one, and then I was like, that was really fun, and I like looked up more information about like OCR and seeing if there's anything else like that around, and that was back when Tough Mudder had like the 10 mile, and they were like, there's like this is the most extreme thing ever, and And so I signed up for the Tough Mudder Michigan. And then when I did that one, I was like, what have I gotten myself into?
Nice. How did that one end up going?
It was fun. That was back before they did like any timing or anything. And so I just like went out there and I was like, I'm going to jump in every mud pile because I paid for like $150 for this. And like when I was a high school student, I was like, that's a lot of money. And then I ended up like running with like these two random guys and had fun the entire time.
Nice. Nice. So then when did you make the crossover from having fun to like, let's start doing this more on a competitive level?
So the first time I like realized it was like kind of a sport was I had started doing like the Warrior Dash in Michigan before like they folded, and I think it was, let's see, would have been 2015 or 2016. I think it was 2016 when Warrior Dash held like, because I know for 2 years they held like the Warrior Dash World Championships.
That's right.
And
That's right.
it,
Yeah.
and so the first year I think was in California. I didn't go to that one,
14.
so it
That was
must have been
four. Yeah, that was
2014.
14.
Okay,
Yeah. And then
so then
the
it's
Tennessee one was 15.
20. Okay, so I qualified at like my Michigan Warrior Dash for like the World Championships in 2015 then, and I had to get like special permission from my school to like miss classes to go to that one, and I was like, this is awesome, I'm such a big deal. And I was like, I think I like looking back, I was like 70th overall or something like that, but I was like, this is so cool. Then like that's when I realized like this thing was a sport, and I was like, I should take this seriously, this is fun.
Nice. And then when did you start like, right? Because right now you're, as I mentioned in your bio, you're on like a crazy win streak slash podium streak. When did you start kind of like really kind of hitting those where it's like, all right, I'm podium at a, it wasn't just like a one off. It's like I'm relatively consistent podiuming.
So when I first was like, this this is like a sport I'm good at and I should take this seriously, was back when Adventure held their USA championships in 2017
Nice.
in
I love you're like
Texas.
all old school. I love it.
Yeah, those are the best ones. So I came in third in my age group there, and I was like, oh, I should take this thing seriously. Like I was behind Benny Gifford and Jay Flores, and I was like, these guys are really good. Like
Oh
maybe
no
if I
way! I
train,
didn't
I'm
realize
right
that
with
was you
them.
back then. That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's so
back in the
crazy.
day. And then I was like, all right, I'm gonna take this sport more seriously. And like I started just doing more and more. And then I think around 2020 was when I started taking my like run training seriously. Cause I was like, I'm good at obstacles, like that's fine, but I just can't keep up with anybody. So around
Yeah.
2020 is when I like started my big upward trajectory, I think.
And when did Ninja? I know you're heavily involved with the Ninja, both on like the coaching side and then also like participating. When did that kind of start? Like, did that kind of
That
happen at the
started
same time or a little before?
No, because I always kind of knew about Ninja when I was in OCR, and I was like, that'd be fun. Like, but I lived in Pensacola until 2019 for school, and then I lived in Memphis, Tennessee for a year, and there was like no Ninja around at all. So, in 2020, or in the middle of COVID, I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and then I did a couple like odd jobs, and then in 2021 I saw on like Indeed or something like that, like this head coaching job for a ninja gym that was coming open up or was opening. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, I'll apply for that. And then I like didn't know much about ninja at the time. Uh, but then I got hired because my owner was like, oh, cool. You like do obstacles. Like, can you run? Like, you're cool. Like, this is cool. And so since 2021, I've been in to the sport of ninja. I don't I like to say I'm a much better coach than I am ninja athlete. Uh, but ninja is fun, but I like a little bit more distance between my obstacles.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, and you've had a lot of success on the coaching side. Tell us a little bit about some of your success coaching and some of that experience in general.
Yeah, my kids are amazing. This last year, so I think what is that? I've had one, two, three, four, probably 6 or 7 podiums at World Championships between all my kids. I had one kid, or last year I had 2 kids podium at one of the World Championships. They came in second and third. And then this last year, one of my girls won it's called the Premier Series. So you had to be invited to the qualifiers first by placing so high in the regular season, and then you had to qualify your way to the championships, and there's only like 32 like athletes in each gender and each age group qualify. And so one of my athletes won that one. And then this, what is it? It's July now. So like 2 weeks ago, one of my athletes at the WNL World Championships won World's Strongest Ninja, which is
Nice.
basically like you have to be super consistent across all your skills and all your courses. And so he had the lowest combined score between all of that. And it's probably one of the hardest things to win.
Nice. I want to say the owner of Modus Ninjas won like the 40 plus one of that a couple
Yes. Yeah.
years ago.
Modus, they're very good. Yeah. One of my friends, or one of my kids, they're really good friends with this girl from Australia. And so she's actually, I think, at Modus right now, like staying with one of the families.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah, TJ, the owner there, is awesome. They got a good crew there.
Yeah.
Donovan Matoyer, the Classy Ninja, and
Yep.
Calvin Tran. Calvin Tran was just on Ninja Warrior, and he's so good. And he basically did what I did the first year I was on the show, which is basically fall immediately, which is a shame. And I was like, Calvin, no, you're so much better than me. Like, you're not supposed to do that. And so it was sad to say. Hopefully, I know he applied again for season 17, so hopefully he'll get another shot.
Yeah, I keep getting asked all the time when I'm going to apply and go on. Like all my kids are like, every day they see me like, have you applied yet? I'm like, no, 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 I'm okay.
Yeah, I've done
But
it
you have to be
3.
15, so some of my kids are starting
Okay.
getting old enough
Oh,
to
that's oh,
apply.
that was gonna be my next question. Yeah, I think I might take. We'll see. This year the competition's like right in the middle of my move. So as I haven't made
Hmm.
a decision if I'm gonna apply yet. I think I'm leaning towards no, just because I don't think I'll have time to train appropriately. So
Yeah, for me. I think it'd be just a cool experience to go, but I'd rather go to coach with my kids and then rather than compete myself.
that'd be cool. Oh, that'd be cool too. Like, because if your kids get on, and then you can, like, again, they need a hook, right? They need In order to
Yes.
get on the show, you need a hook, and like having your kids compete that you've trained with for all these years, and then like also competing, and that's a pretty good hook.
Yeah.
I think you can get on with that line. So I know like most sports. Obviously, there's physical value for the kids. What have you seen as far as like emotional or like personal development for the kids, as far as like how your coaching of them, about resiliency or anything kind of like in that lane? Um,
I That's my favorite part about this sport is like ninja is less it's less like you versus someone else than in like OCR you're like I'm racing, like if I'm racing you I'm like, oh, I want to beat Evan, like he's right behind me, I got to keep pushing. But in ninja I think it's a very hard because this is the course, like yes you're competing who ran the 10 minutes ago, but your friend isn't on the course as you're going. And so it's that mental aspect of you have to be locked in and focused on each individual obstacle as they come to you. And like especially like a couple weeks ago at the World Championships, like it's a big stage, like especially for 8-year-old kids. Like some of my kids, like they get up on the stage for the first time before their run and they're like freaking out. And so like you have to bring them down and bring them back to like you're in this moment, like you're just going to concentrate on what you see before you and then give it your best. And then just seeing them grow throughout the years and like learning how to take that in, because some of my kids now, this is like the third year they've competed, and so they're getting more used to the stage and more used to like just everything around them as that's happening. When there's like 1,500 people around you watching you run the course as an 8-year-old, it can be quite intimidating. And so learning or like teaching them how to like see that and then overcome like the fear of just failing in front of a bunch of people is like so one of the coolest concepts I think I've seen in the sport.
nice, good stuff. Let's jump back to you. Let's jump back to you. Besides your coaching aspect, let's talk back to your OCR development, like your actual OCR skills. So uh, tell me about like how do you see yourself as an athlete? Are you the short course guy? Are you because you've done well at the endurance stuff, right? You did your team won World's Toughest Mudder, the relay format. Um,
Yes.
So where do you
Uh,
where do you see yourself fitting in? And you're a ninja coach, right? So those are two opposite ends of the spectrum.
yeah. I mean, I go from anywhere from like 100 meters to the 24 hours. So I've done it all. Um, my let's see, my like shtick, I would say my favorite part is probably like the 5 to 10K. Like,
Okay.
so I like the shorter stuff, a little bit spicier. But then I like the really hard obstacles. So like not quite ninja level, but because some of those are insanely difficult. But I like putting harder obstacles, more like how Savage does it, but even harder than Savage. So like FISO, OCR World Championships in Belgium last year was so much fun in the 3K format. Like it was just like hard obstacle after hard obstacle after hard obstacle, and they just like pounded it into you, and that was so much fun.
Nice. Yeah, I mean that's one of the reasons you're on the team are the CTG Pro team, then MudGear or Hannibal MudGear Battle of the Lines now MudGear-Hannibal Race Pro team. That's kind of
Hmm.
always been our shtick there as well. Like, we can run pretty good, but we can also do hard obstacles, and
Yes.
the harder the obstacles, like typically, like you said, the harder the obstacles in OCR, the better. But the obstacles, the difference between OCR and Ninja is there are levels, like you were saying earlier.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, like the ninja level is still extremely hard. So like I like to think if we take one step back from that, if you can run into an obstacle at 6 minute flat pace with 180 degree or 180 beat minute heart rate, then it's a good obstacle.
yes, yeah, yeah. All right. So tell me a little bit about your 2024 season so far.
Yeah, it's been a good season. I feel like I've raced a ton already this year, and that wasn't the plan to start the year. But I've done, I think, 8 OCR races so far this year, and I've podiumed them all and then won all of them but two.
Amazing. There were some big races in there too. What has been your what's been your training like methodology? Are you trying to peak for each one, or we take a long off season and now we're kind of just riding the fitness, or what's your take me through some of the like your plan, your methodology here.
Yeah, so this is so like I was saying earlier, like 2020 is when I started like increasing my run training. So I had a coach for the last 3 years or so. And then this year I decided to like do more self-coaching because like I've been a personal trainer. I know how to like program all my own training. I just liked having that like accountability partner and be like my coach would be like, "Hey, do this." I'm like, "Perfect, sounds good to me."
Yeah.
Uh but I think over the years I've learned that like I can hold myself to that standard anyways. So this year I started doing my own training, writing my own personal training program each week for running. And so I wouldn't say I've not haven't been peaking for any race specifically yet. This whole year has been kind of like a big build until FISO OCR Worlds at the end of August. And I've like slightly peaked for some of the races here or there, mostly the Charlotte ones, because I had this thing where I was like, I want to win all the Charlotte OCR races, and since Charlotte's called like the Queen City, I was like, I can wear the crown, so I thought that would be kind of cool, and
Love it.
I've accomplished that so far, so I'm good on that one. Um, yeah, this is the biggest cool thing to say. Like I've won all the OCRs in my city, and there's some pretty good people like that live around me. Like, and not as many people race anymore, but like Ryan Woods lives like not too far away. Brian Gowiski lives not too far away, and then Sean Roberts used to live over here. So there's been
Yeah,
some
all
good,
big names, huge names.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, especially on the Savage side. They were all uh, you know,
yes,
axe holders, I'm pretty sure at multiple time axe holders
hmm,
there in that group. So
yeah,
that is a rough area to live in to try to race well.
yeah. But it's fun to always get to race good competition.
That is true. That is true.
Pushes me to be better.
Yeah, and then you can't slack if if you're not training, then they are, and that could they'll take the win if you're not
Yes.
keeping on your schedule there. So tell me a little bit about like you're not racing on a weekend. What is like an average programming week for you look like? Like how many times you doing obstacles, how much run volume you doing, and obviously that'll fluctuate depending on where you are in like your peaking phase. But
Mm-hmm.
average week, typical week.
So in a typical week, I try to do anywhere from like 50, like 45 to like maybe 60 miles. I found that like I used to not be able to do more than 35 if we're like without getting like weird injuries in my legs. And then I was finally able this last year to kind of ramp it up some more. And now hitting the 50, sometimes 60 mile, like made me feel like much faster as an athlete, which I think is shown in my racing. But so I'll usually try and hit like a little faster speed session, like on a Tuesday night usually. And most of my workouts are at night after work. So I'll try to do like a speed workout then and like a speed workout on maybe Friday. And pretty much all the other days are just like hour easy runs. Just trying to make sure my legs are ready for those like harder efforts. And then sometimes on the weekends, depending on if I'm not doing anything, with from Charlotte, you can probably get you can get anywhere from 2 to 3 hours. You can get to a lot of really good mountains. So I'll try and go out there and hit some big hill intervals.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I like that. For me personally, I found 50 miles like up. I feel like I get faster up until 50, and then like 50 to 75, I feel like I don't get any faster, but my endurance gets better. And then once I get above 75, my endurance will go up and my speed will drop.
Mm-hmm.
That's again just from my personal body and experience of running volume over the last 2 decades. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've hit a 60 a couple times during this like big training session, and then I feel like I'll just have to take too much recovery time right now after that. So I'm like, okay, that 50 to 55 is kind of like the ideal sweet spot to kind of hit right now.
yeah, yeah, I would agree. I would agree based off again my personal body and
Mm-hmm.
the without with and for people who are like pure runners, professional level runners, and that's like all they do. They're like, oh, that's too low, and it's like, well,
Yes.
you also don't have to have any upper body. Like
Exactly.
you can have stick for arms, and then right like there's a couple little races in the middle of the country, and occasionally you have like cross country runners show up to them. One of
Yep.
them was in Wichita. I didn't go this year. I went last year, but it was very easy obstacles. And they're like essentially the high school cross country team came out and they were burning it down for the first mile. And then we would hit obstacles that are like, it's like you go over a log. It's like nothing. And their heart rates would spike and they would drop back. It's like
Yep.
I was like, man, if we had like a like real hard obstacles, you'd be in trouble. But I ran down most of them. But this year, I heard there was even more. My friend, our teammate Thomas Plush went out there and got,
Hmm.
he's a fast dude. He ended up coming in like seventh this year. He's like the cross country runners were just too fast this year. I was like, all right, that's
It's
what it
like let's
is.
make the obstacle a little bit harder.
Yeah, yeah, and they've there's not much. There's less stuff in the Midwest now than there used to be, and I think
Yeah.
they've got their formula and people keep showing up, so they're like, why change it if it's working? So
Yep. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
right, right. Yeah, all right. Let's start talking about the big race. Well, no, not the big race. One of the big races. You've done a lot of big races. War X. Tell me a little bit about War X.
So this was my first time heading out to Warx. I've heard about it for a couple years. Just never been able to get over to Ohio for it. It always seems like it was falling on something else. I think the last couple years it fell on the same weekend as like one of the Ninja World Championships. So I was out already coaching and taken away for that. But this year it was the week after, and I was like, perfect. I can finally get over to it. And then Russ with OCR Buddy was like kind enough to hook us up with some free races for that. So it made going to the race much easier. But that was probably one of the coolest races I've ever done. They did an awesome job. They're one of those like little small kind of mom and pop OCR races, but they're anything but little and small. They take everything to the 10th level of what they do there. And the race they put on this year was so much fun. I'll definitely be back next year as long as it doesn't fall on something else I have to be doing.
Yeah, and the level of competition was a lot higher. I feel like every year the level of competition there has been gotten better. And
Yeah, there was some really good guys there this year. No
I
one
know
was out
they've.
there trying to cherry pick a race.
I feel like they have become the new what Indian Mud Run was a couple of years ago before they shut down. I feel like
Exactly.
Warx has taken their place as like I'm gonna call it the unofficial U.S. championship that's not part of like Spartan or Tough Mudder, right? Like
Yeah.
the unofficial, mom and pop brand U.S. championship.
Yes. And I definitely like anybody who like is interested in going, I definitely recommend it. Like the obstacles, the environment, the people, like they're all top notch.
So tell us a little bit about some of the unique obstacles. I know I've seen pictures of them online, and like you were saying, I've had the same problem for the last couple of years. So it's like, oh, I want to get out there, and then it's like, well, it's right before, right after a toughest mudder, which has been like my priority. So
Mm-hmm.
it always kind of doesn't really work out well for me either.
No.
But tell us a little bit about some of the obstacles.
So I think like if you were to search Warex, the first thing you're gonna see is a giant flag slide, and that is one of the funnest things I've ever done in an OCR. I want to say they say it's a 300-foot slide, and you get up to like 28 miles an hour down it, and it's just like smack dab in the middle of the race. So this year, like I was dying when I got up to it, and I was like, I gotta go down this thing, like and like I'm trying to slide down and control my speed, and I end up spinning around and then shooting off, and like I get launched up into the air and then eat the water. When I was getting out of it, I would like looked like I was dying, and the one guy's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No, but I gotta keep going. I'm in third right now, so I gotta keep pushing."
Nice. What about give me some of the grip obstacles? Tell us about some of the grip obstacles you had.
Yeah, so they have a lot of cool like rigs as well. They have I think first like grip obstacle we came up to was like this cool low rig. And there was different what I liked about it is it had different lanes. So like there was probably 8 lanes total, and like 4 of them um they just had like different hanging grips on them, and it's just a hard low rig, but which is nice because most low rigs are hard for me since I'm 6'2", because they had like a uh little pipe on the side, so like you could stretch out and like kind of lay back and do walk your feet and do the grips at the same time. But then they had different ones. So the one was grip lane, like that, like there was like some hanging stuff, and then one was like canes, so you got to slide the canes, or one was like PVC pipe, so you like shimmy the PVC pipe down this. So it's cool that they had like different lanes if you wanted to try different things on it. And then one of the other rigs they had was what was it called? I don't remember what it's called, but it was like a 70-foot long rig with like rest points in between it. And they had just different implements along each section. So one section was one of those Jacob's ladders from like a carnival. So you get onto it and then it like flips you upside down. And that one was really fun. And then there was even another low rig later, but it was like a low rig where you had to take this big old PVC pipe and like scooch it down and then climb up over that. And then at the very end, they had this big grip. Yeah, it's kind of grip. You climb up this huge kind of like ditch pipe. It's like up at an angle, and there's rock climbing holds all the way up it. So you got to climb up that and then take a zip line down across the finish line.
Nice. That's that super long rig. If you fall towards the end, do you go all the way back to the beginning, or is it like sectioned off where like, oh, you only have to go back one or two sections?
All the way back. So like,
Oh,
the very last thing is like a balance beam too, and it's all uphill. So like this balance beam is uphill. So I took that so slow just to make sure I completed it at the restart.
nice, nice. And I know one of their the famous image I feel like I always see, besides the giant American flag for War X, is someone shooting a flamethrower. Now,
Yes.
do you get a choice? Do you get a chance to shoot the flamethrower at some point before or after the event, or is that only for the people running the event?
So I heard you might get the opportunity to shoot the flamethrower after the event.
Okay.
Uh, I went back to my hotel afterward to take a shower, and then I fell asleep before I was supposed to go back out and do like the second part. And so I did not get to shoot the flamethrower, which is the most disappointing thing of the entire weekend. I don't care if I won the race or came in last, but I wanted to shoot the flamethrower, and I didn't get that opportunity. So now I have to go back next year to try and shoot this flamethrower.
Nice. Yeah, I saw Leah Emus post a picture of her shooting the flamethrower, and I was like,
Yeah,
oh, so yeah, good
that was my
stuff.
one goal, and I failed. So
Now,
Maybe next year.
yeah, yeah. Is it still part of a trilogy of events? Like I remember previously they were doing three different events over the course of the weekend. They were doing like an
Yeah.
OCR trail and then something else as well. They still doing
Yes.
that?
So they still have that. So there's kind of like four events. So they have the trilogy. So you do the 10K OCR in the morning on Saturday, and then later that evening it's like a 2 mile. It's it's kind of like a run, kind of not. That was the one I fell asleep for and didn't get to go back to. But it's kind of they since all the guys that put it on are part of like the army or first responders of some sort, they do like a big kind of like battle simulation kind of thing, which is super fun and cool. And that's when might get the opportunity to shoot the flamethrower. So and then the next morning on Sunday morning they do like a 5K trail race.
Nice.
And then the kind of like fourth event is so after you do the 10K in the morning, if you can go back out and try and do two more 5K loops to get this other really cool medal. So it's kind of like a fourth race in that
Yeah.
regard.
Well, that's nice. Like again, if you're gonna travel, sometimes I travel all this way and it's like, all right, 30 minutes later, you're done, and it's like, did I
Yes.
really just drive 9 hours to run for 30 minutes?
Yes.
So that's
Yeah,
nice.
so
They
it's
turn it into a full weekend.
yeah, they give you so much opportunity, and they have camping on site too that I know a lot of people did. So like you can kind of stay there, and then after the like kind of simulation thing on Saturday night, they do like a big fireworks display and like a cookout kind of thing too.
Nice, nice. Anything I missed about Warx that you feel we need to talk about?
Um, I don't know. I just know they're always innovating, and so each year they just add to it and make it bigger and better. Like everybody I talked to, um, had that done in the past said this year was even better than before, and then I'm figuring that it's just gonna keep going up and up from here, like kind of how Indian Mud Run like had that lore, and then they just kept going up and up until they closed off shop a couple years ago. So I'm hoping that they keep going up and up here and without closing off shop.
Nice. Yeah, I know Phil Huckey was on my team for one of the toughest, and is also on strength and speed. I don't know if he still, I think he still does. I know he was helping build with them and help with some of the obstacle design. He's a
Hmm.
former Ninja Warrior guy. If anyone's like looked through any of the market images for War X or OCRWC or Ninja Warrior, and you see the guy with the beard and it's like spray painted like the
Yep.
event he's at, that's Phil. So
Yeah.
good
I
dude.
think I talked to him for a minute. He was a cool dude.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Good guy. So
Yeah, and all their obstacles, they're not kind of like how like Spartan or Savage, like they kind of had like the standardized, like here's the scaffolding obstacle, like it's just plain and simple. But like they take their obstacles, they make them huge, and just they're amazing.
nice, nice. What before we move off from War X, is it 100% mandatory completion or do they have any sort of like weird I know some of the smaller brands were doing like multiple band type things.
Yeah, so they're one of the banned ones. So I guess technically you don't have to complete all the obstacles, but like if you complete them all, then you're ranked higher than someone who didn't complete them all.
Yeah.
I want to say they said they had eight, I believe, like obstacles where you had to gain a band. So you started with no bands, and then each time you completed like one of the harder obstacles, like one of the rigs, you would gain a band. And so at the end, you had to have eight bands on your arm, which is kind of hard to keep track of. Like after three or four, I like lost count in the middle of the race, and I was like dying of heat exhaustion out there. Like I was like, how many bands do I got? I don't even know anymore.
Yeah. Nice.
But so your goal is to come back with all eight bands faster than everybody else.
Gotcha. And I'm assuming the male podium was 100% like that.
Oh yeah, I want to say probably out to like the top 20
Okay. Good
of
to know.
males at least. Yeah.
You know about the
Yeah.
females?
I want to say, well, I know Vivian said she had all eight, and she was third for the females. So I think all the females cleared, at least on the
Gotcha.
top podium.
Yeah, on the podium. Yeah. Gotcha. Cool. That's kind of a cool, interesting, unique system.
Yeah,
Always kind of curious. We'll see what brands do with that mandatory obstacle completion penalty stuff like that. So
yeah. I definitely prefer mandatory obstacles.
Yeah, I think we all. By say we all, I mean like me slash. I think I'm guessing the people who listen to the podcast and
Yes.
our team. I know our team definitely prefers that. So yeah, and it usually plays to our advantage. Which again, it's obstacle course racing. It should be. You should have to do all the obstacles. I don't. Yeah,
Exactly.
and I like that. It makes it high risk. It means the winner can be in first and then essentially DNF 100 feet from the finish, which I think is cool.
Yep. I
Right.
definitely know that it's happened multiple times, especially with some of my friends.
Yeah, which it's good. I think that again that makes it more interesting to watch. It makes it more interesting to follow. It makes it more interesting as an athlete because someone can have a huge lead on you, and then you could be like, well, the race is essentially never over until you go across the line. I think that's much more
Yep.
interesting versus like, oh well, they've got 5 minutes on me. Well, even if they fail the obstacle, they're going to take 2 minutes to do burpees, and then they'll still win. All right, so we mentioned WarX, which is a local OCR in the middle of the country. Since you're from North Carolina, are there any kind of local OCRs? Obviously, we got Savage and kind of Spartan and Tough Mudder traversing that area, but are there any kind of local OCRs in the North Carolina area that people should know about or that you
Um,
know
so
about?
the so in South and North Carolina, there's really not too much besides like the Spartans and the Savage. There was a really fun one I did earlier this year called Bear Crawl OCR though. That was a really cool little local OCR, kind of like the same vibe as Warex, but to a smaller extent. They did a lot of really cool things. They did a ton of really heavy strength-based obstacles.
Oh, nice.
And they did like a they normally they do like a 10K course, but I guess this year there were some property issues or something like that, and so they only had enough room to do a 5K course. But so the elites had to do the 5K course twice, and they probably had like 20, 25 obstacles packed into that 5K course, and over half of them were like heavy strength things. With the worst one being there was a 130-pound Atlas stone,
Oh,
and you had to pick it up from the ground and throw it over your shoulder 5 times. And I only
wow.
weigh 150 pounds, so
Yeah, that's
so getting that up and over was not fun. And then the entire second loop, I was like, like dreading getting back to this obstacle.
That's cool. I like the variability though. That's cool, and it plays to some of the stronger guys' attributes. So
Yes, it was definitely a very fair race, I think, because each like lap probably had about 500 feet of elevation gain in it too. So like if you were a faster runner, you could definitely like move through the course really quick. But then a lot of the obstacles played towards like stronger guys. So I thought it was a very fair balance for that course.
gotcha. Have you ever done the only other local kind of OCR I know in North Carolina is called Dragon OCR? Have you heard of that one?
So I have heard about that, but I think that's out towards Wilmington. So I want to say it's probably like 3, 4 hours from me. So it's not super close.
Okay.
But I have heard of it. I just
Okay.
haven't gotten to it yet.
I just looked up their Facebook page just now. There apparently they did not do a race this year, but um I don't know if they're coming back. We'll see. But that I know that's another North Carolina one. All right.
Yeah.
Let's talk Fizo real quick. I have been I have been critical of Fizo in the past on this podcast. I'm not sure if you listened to that episode. And j- I want convince me otherwise. I'm open. I'm open to new opinions. I'm open as someone who's physically been there, right? Like I not as someone who I'm friends with, I value your opinion. So, you know, sell me on Fizo. Like why should I change my mind here?
So I will state from the beginning, I don't agree with a lot of things Fizo does.
Okay.
But last year in Belgium, the races that they put on were really fun. And like so the atmosphere was truly like so in Belgium last year they did the 100 meter, the 3K, the 15K, and some team races. And all those races were, I want to say, top notch, super fun races. Like some of the best OCR races I've done, like personally done. I'm not saying like they're the best in like the world has ever seen, but they were between the obstacles, the competition level, and just like the environment they had at the event. very, very well put on. There's definitely a lot of little tweaks they could make to make the event better. The main one, like cleaning the porta potties, they weren't cleaned once all week, and by the end of that week, they were overflowing.
Oh man.
That would be the biggest tweak I would say they should make. First of all, clean porta potties. And then there were some other things that happened, specifically in one of the races with some rules clarifications. I think they need to get those set in place. And I think it happened in either the 3K or 15K, and then in one of the team races, there were some rules they didn't implement, or they didn't follow their own rule book very well. So hopefully they get that sorted out for Costa Rica this year. But I will say, like, the obstacle quality, the way the course was designed, and the atmosphere they provided for all the athletes was really cool.
Okay. Okay. I like it. You know, my biggest complaint going back was that they weren't consistently putting on events, and when they did put on events, they just slapped their label on another event, and they had really like poor turnouts. So
Yes.
it sounds like they're on the up, at least the first kind of like major one in a while, that and they're putting out a second event in the next this year, so, or the second
Yes.
two consecutive events, right? Because they've put on more than one event in the past. It sounds like
Yes.
they are on the right track. So I will refrain from future criticism until they give me a reason to change my mind again.
Yes.
But hopefully that won't be an issue again. So,
I've already booked my flights to Costa Rica, so I'm really hoping it's happening.
yeah, yeah, good stuff. Okay, good, good. Glad to see. Glad to see again. I do occasionally write articles for Adventury and for OCRWC, but that's not why I was being critical of FISA. It was all the other things I had said on one of my previous podcasts. So,
Yeah, and there's definitely things like they can improve on.
but they're also kind of new, right? So like you're gonna
Yes.
have some new hiccups, right? So I
Yes.
completely understand some of it. Yeah,
Yeah, and if they build off of Belgium in the right direction, I think it could truly become probably the best world championship event.
really. Do you think better than
Yeah.
OCRWC?
Yeah, I've liked OCRWC a ton in the past, especially like I did 2016 in Toronto, not Toronto, but like in Canada. And that was one of my favorite events of all time. This was on par with that. So
Okay.
I think as as I saw last year, from like my perspective, like Adventure kind of like leveled out or went down a little bit. And so if they continue to slide, I think this could take their spot.
Okay. And I do value, again, as someone who's been around for a while and raced a whole bunch of different brands, and like you said earlier, like you did the one and only US OCRC, the US championship
Yeah.
that Adventure put on. So yeah, you've seen a little bit of everything, especially
Yeah.
being involved in the sport since 2013, right? That's the same year I started racing. So um, yeah,
Yeah, I've been around for a while, and I've been on the short aspect, like with the 100 meter last year, and then like I said, or like earlier, like I won the team race for WTM, so kind of dabbled in everything.
yeah, love it. Cool. Any other big plans we need to know about for 2024? Obviously, you're going to FISO World Championship again. Uh,
Yep, that's my
expectations,
main goal.
yeah, expectations for that. Like, where do we think we're gonna? Obviously, the goal is always to win podium. What do you think? Give me an estimation of what you think, how you think it's gonna go.
So last year, I think I was 34th in the 3K, and like the 3K is like my main goal going in. And I feel much faster than I was last year, so I'm really shooting for a top 10 this year.
Okay.
It's really hard with all the competition, especially if all the European guys come out again, which I hope they do, because those guys are really fast and really good on obstacles. The only slight concern is so the USA elite team has like a WhatsApp page, and so like we're all communicating in there for everyone who's on Team USA. And the 3K in Costa Rica is supposed to be in their national stadium, which would be really cool. But I'm a little afraid it's going to be more like a Spartan Stadium race, which I've never done. And so I'm trying to figure out if it's fully like a stadium race or if we're going to go outside and do some more like OCR based things, kind of.
Yeah, because that could severely affect the placement and how you train, right? If you're doing essentially what turns into like endurance CrossFit, is like that's what stadium race is a little more like than OCR.
Exactly. Yeah. So trying to figure that out now. So I still have like 6 weeks to train and prepare for that. But the 15K is going to be cool. It's going to be outside the capital city on a coffee farm in the mountains. So that'll just be super fun, and I'm excited for that one too.
Nice. We might have to bring you back on and have you give us a rundown of the event afterwards.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. All right. What about
But other than,
yeah, go for it. Any other big plans?
I'm going to be doing the Savage Series later this year. This year it's only 3 races. So I'll be in Maryland, Georgia, and then Florida fall. And last year I finished 4th in the Savage Series overall. So this year, trying to move up at least 1 and get that podium spot.
Nice.
So those the Georgia and Florida venues for Savage are 2 of my favorite venues for OCR. They're 2 completely opposite. Florida's fast and flat, and then Georgia, it's like just little kicker hills after little kicker hills and some sweet like off-road terrain that's super fun.
Good stuff.
But I've never raced Maryland, so I'm excited for that one.
Any plans for Adventure OCRWC or World's Toughest?
So World's Toughest this year is in Florida, so that was sounding super fun. But it also happens to be the day of my wedding,
Ooh, yeah.
so gonna have to take a rain check on that one. That one will not be happening this year. Maybe again in the future. I've loved doing it as a team race, and then now with like the team being instead of 2 people being out at once, you only have 1 person out at once. It can make things totally different. So I think that could be really fun to do as a 4-person team again.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever want to do it solo though. I did that once, and that was the 2018 year when in Atlanta when it was like 20 degrees and they closed half the obstacles. And I was unprepared and froze to death in my tent for 10 hours. So
that was a bad year. That was a bad year. Yeah.
But I kind of have that itch in the back of my head to like maybe I should try and go for a golden jacket one year. Maybe I think it'll always be there until I give it a try. So we'll see. If it stays in Florida, it might be the opportunity for me.
Nice. All right. Let's before I forget, you mentioned the weekend of your wedding, also the weekend of World's Toughest Mud, also, which I don't think I've mentioned on the podcast yet, Hannibal Race is doing a race in Qatar. So another event in the Middle East. Same weekend. I believe it's the Friday before World's Toughest. So weekends in the Middle East are typically Friday, Saturday. Friday being the Muslim holy day there. So as of now, tentatively, I am planning. I might go to Qatar, and some of the team might end up coming with me to run Hannibal Race that weekend. So we'll see. So I was planning on doing World's Toughest as media, looking like I might be in Qatar. We'll see. So exciting stuff coming down the pipe for OCR, and yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, that'd be cool too.
I tried to convince you
my
to
wedding for that one either.
Yeah, I was like destination wedding. Just saying. Like that'd be pretty sweet. The Qataris and Amin, the Hannibal Race owner, would go nuts for your wedding. If just in case you change your mind, fly the wife over. Maybe
I'll float it to my wife and see what she says.
Yeah. Okay. Let's final shout outs you want to give. Oh, actually, before we get to that, tell us one thing people would be surprised to know about you.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not very interesting. I just race a lot. I guess I can juggle. Like that's a pretty random fact. I taught myself to juggle when I was like 8 years old. I was like watching on TV, and I'm gonna learn to do that. And I bought a book, and I learned how to juggle.
Nice. I cannot juggle. I tried at one point. They were talking at one point. The Boy Scouts were talking about doing a circus arts merit badge, and someone came in and tried to teach us how to juggle,
Oh.
and I tried to practice for a couple days and wasn't happening. Lost interest. Lost. Not super coordinated. Not super coordinated with any kind of ball, like baseball or any sort of like ball sports, which is why I do repetitive motion endurance sports in general. So,
Yes.
all right. Any
I
final
was like,
shout
if they
outs
ever
you?
have a juggling obstacle, I'll be good.
That's yeah. Any final shout outs you want to give friends, family, sponsors, etc.?
Just like the MudGear team, they've been awesome this year. I loved everything we've been doing. Team's been crushing it. My wife, obviously, technically, we're already married. We got married last month in June.
Oh,
Um,
now you have to come to
like
Qatar. It's now.
we already have like it's like a big kind of party reception in July or in November. So and then finally, probably like some of my best friends in OCR racing, Ben, Seth, and Jason. We're on a another team as well, US OCR Midwest. So like I always race with them, like at Adventure, or like when we did World's Toughest Mudder 2 years ago. Like those guys have been with me since my like beginning in OCR, so it's been awesome. Like have some friends the entire time. Because like if you're having fun in the sport and hanging out with your friends, what are you doing?
Right. Nice. Cool. Well, our listeners, again, check out teamstrengthspeed.com. I will not be at Toughest Mudder Chicago. And like I said, I'm not planning on going to World's Toughest. So if anyone needs leg mitts for any of those lights or the extremes, make sure you order them with plenty of time in advance. I'm also moving in less than 30 days from the recording of this podcast, which means I won't have access to all of my Blegmit stock again. So please don't wait to order because you might order and you might have to wait a couple more days or maybe in a week or two for me to get my supply back in because they will be in a bunch of my moving stuff. So I'm going to take some of them out. But if people order a bunch at the wrong time, I will run out of stock. And then for anyone who's interested in some of the stuff from Tiga Tactics that I've been working on, so one, you can check out the Tiga Tactics podcast, but then also August 18th, I'm doing a webinar through Tiga Tactics. Essentially, it's we would call it combative conditioning. So it's physical training and peaking for martial arts, right? So I take a lot of the principles that I learned from obstacle course racing and I take them and apply it to self-protection and then also martial arts. So the principles that I teach in it are the same, like they're universal, right? So as you go from obstacle course racing to martial arts or from martial arts to something else or into marathon running, a triathlon, whatever, you can take the same principles and apply them, right? So it's not like here's a list of 30 exercises you're going to do. No, that's not what it is. It's principle based. So you can understand how you can continue to use the same concepts as you switch sports and as you switch different types of events. So please check that out, August 18th. I'm not sure I know there's a fee. I want to say it's pretty cheap. It's probably like 15 or 20 bucks is what it usually is, I think. So please check that out. And then I got another book coming out probably next month. Then another Tiga Tactics related self-protection. It's called The Runner's Run If You Can, Destroy If You Must. It's a runner's self-protection guide. So talking about runner safety and stuff like that. So another cool thing to check out. And then my other books are all available on teamstrengthspeed.com. Just started uploading some new videos onto the Strength and Speed YouTube channel, so please check that out. An interview I did last year with Chris Obermeyer from the Patriot Podcast. It's nicely well produced. It's video, so there'll be 3 episodes that are dropping right around the time this podcast comes out. So please check that out and subscribe to Strength and Speed YouTube if you haven't done so already. And then please check out MudGear-Hannibal Race Pro Team, our Instagram and our Facebook pages if you want to see what Kevin's up to. And then you'll also be able to find all of his social stuff as well. All right, I think that's it. Kevin, anything I miss?
No, sounds good to me.
All right, we will catch you all in the next episode. My apologies for not putting out 2 last month. That is the first time I've missed putting out 2 episodes, I think, in the entire podcast history. So just part of being busy and trying to sell my house and move across the country again for the, I don't know, 10th time or something like that. I've moved a lot. So, all right, we will I'll probably stick with this 1 to 2 episodes a month for the foreseeable future, and we will catch you in the next episode. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Evan. Have a great day.
Later.